Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We are your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble. Today, we are talking with Carolyn Nadine Helsing. Carolyn has led quite the adventurous life, from modeling to an actress, a photographer, and also an author. Her paths have taken her to many places around the world, including going deep into the Amazon jungle. Carolyn is an active member in her community, and she is the author of the book Unapologetic: Tales of the Original Party Crasher, a memoir biography about processing the loss of her mother. So, Carolyn, we are happy to be chatting with you today.
Thank you. It's so fun to be here. Happy to be chatting with you guys too.
So you've told a great story about your mom's pirate journey, and you've led many adventures of your own throughout your life. So would you tell us the tale of what started you on your pirate journey and what's led you to where you are today?
Oh my goodness. That's I can go way back. I probably, honestly, my mother being a pirate before her days is probably what started me on my journey. Just being in her essence, you know, she was someone who was, as my book says, you know, is very unapologetic, and she was unapologetically herself. So it was a good thing. But yeah, just, you know, I grew up kind of in an environment where it was okay to try things. You know, I wasn't afraid of like failing, you know, so much as I knew lessons were in the journey. So I have had the opportunity, or I have absolutely tried so many different things. I feel like I've reinvented myself like every few years. Yeah, I mean, what started me, my goodness, where do I, with the things that I've done in my life, or where I am today, or like,
We've got time. Let's start at the beginning. Were you a natural birth or C-section?
I guess natural birth. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So originally I'm from Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii. And, you know, I had gotten into doing a lot of like commercial work and so forth, and a little bit of modeling and stuff. And so the natural progression is to go to the mainland, because there's only so much you can do in Hawaii to a point. So I was ready to get off the rock and explore other opportunities in California. And I did that for, and I was working not quite a bit, working on nonstop, but a bit for about 8.5 years. And then right around that time, I had gotten a new mattress, a new bed that was higher than my old one. And I had a little Lhasa Apso dog who used to, you know, jump on the bed with me and sleep with me. And he couldn't get up anymore because it was a little too high. It was higher than he was used to. So I had made a step for him to get up onto this bed. And that in essence actually led into a company where I made dog products.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because like I made it for him, and then my friends found out and they're like, oh wow, that's cool. I'd like something like that. So I've always been entrepreneurial. And I was kind of like craving something new in my life, to use my brain in a different way. And so it was perfect timing. And that, you know, I created this company, and we wound up doing t-shirts with slogans on it, like bitches love me, or security. And so it wound up being like 250 different sayings, and a lot of work, a lot of everything. And then I sold it about 10.5 years later. And then after doing that, I kind of wanted a bit of a break. And so I got into, just I wanted a little bit of a breather. I got into volunteer work, and kind of went back to my first love of photography. And so in my volunteer work is where, I partnered up with these mobile medical clinics. And we would go to Mexico or Peru. We were we were the last actually group to go into India to do polio vaccinations via the droplets before the injection. So that was super exciting. And, I felt like I was giving back, and it was just a nice kind of reset. But the reason I mention is, so in doing all that, because I had a photography background, I would document it through my photos. And then I would also write about these experiences and submit them to the paper. And so that kind of reignited my love of writing. I've never done anything with it, but prior to this, but I was always a lover of writing, journaling, ever since I was a kid. And and then anyway, so loved writing, and then was like, oh, I'm actually not bad at it. And so that sort of progressed into I was like a freelance writer for the local papers here. And then bringing us to more recent times, my mother, who was very, very close with, passed away in 2019, actually on January 1st. And she was just an incredible human. Definitely a pirate for her, like she's very much someone that just lived life to the beat of her own drum. And taught me so many lessons unbeknownst to her. I like to kind of say it. It's not like she was someone that would I don't know, teach me how to like make a perfect bed with hospital corners, or like teach me how to, like help me with my homework. She was more like I learned through observing her. And she had amazing stories, and I had always wanted to tell them and share them. And by the end of 2019 is kind of what I started to do, because for me, writing was therapy. And so it helped me to kind of just make sense of everything that had just happened, that was, I was going through, that was feeling. And then, cut to like, it just became a book. So, and also the fact that, it was on the, it was right before before the pandemic. I had started it a few months before, and then here we are, everyone's in lockdown, and I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? I think I treated it like a full-time job, and that's what I did. Like every day I just wrote her stories, and wrote this book. And it was about a little over about a year later is when it was done, and I was able to publish it. It turns out it actually wound up being published on her birthday.
Oh, wow.
Which was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to be another date, but I always feel like she has a hand in some things. So she definitely have had a lot of signs from her.
So one of the things that you said way back at the beginning, you talked about how you didn't have a fear of failure for trying new things. Where did that come from in your life?
Well, I mean, of course you have little, there's fear here and there, but for the most part, I've never had that. Like, I've always been excited about the unknown. I like challenging myself. So pretty much everything I've ever done, it's not like I've had like training in it, or, I mean, like running a international business, I had that for 10 and a half years, and I didn't go to business school. I was able to sell it, and just I just sort of teach myself. But what started it, I grew up with a lot of love, my parents, and my mother especially, was like, they were very encouraging. And I mean, it's like, I feel cheesy saying this, but it's like, they would say, like my mother especially would say, you can do anything. And I guess I was naive enough to believe it. So I just try things. But I think a lot of it also is in your attitude. I mean, if you think you're going to fail, then you fail. If you think you're going to succeed, then you succeed. I mean, and it's not that there aren't failures in your life, but if you still hold that vision that you're going to succeed, you eventually get there. It might not be the path that you originally, had laid out for yourself. It could be this windy road, but you're still going to get there. It's just, I believe that. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And one of the things he talks about in that book is, most of us live out of fear, and that the opposite of fear is faith. And what it sounds like is that faith in yourself was kind of instilled in a young age by support from your parents, that you had faith that somehow you would succeed with what you put your mind to, rather than living in the fear.
Yeah. I mean, I laugh at myself because the things that I get myself into, I'm just like, yes, I can do it. And then I figured out later. I'm in the process of recording an Audible version of the book. And that's pretty funny too, because, like I chose not to go the studio route. I was like, I can do this myself. So I just took our downstairs walk-in closet, and I turned that into basically a studio, mixed studio, and happened to mention it to a neighbor friend of mine, and they're like, oh, we've got these soundproof walls, whatever. So they brought over these like padded like boards, and between that and the clothes, like the acoustics are awesome. So I'm in the process of just kind of like going through edits now, but I don't know. To me, it's just fun to see if I can do it.
I like that attitude. So did you self-publish your book then too? Or is that,
Yeah, I did. I created in a publishing imprint, so then it's under my own. But yeah, it's through KDP, so that's Amazon's. Yeah, and I just saw that you also published.
I did. Yeah. That is real nice with Amazon, how easy they make that for doing the self-publishing. So yeah, that's super
by
cool.
the time this episode comes out, it'll be the new year, and definitely Kristen's book will be available. So go and buy it.
And also go buy Carolyn.
And also Carolyn.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So with the pirate attitude, the pirate life, we like to ask about social rebellion. So taking what type of social rebellion are you creating, or have you created in your life, where you're going against the norm or the status quo?
Well, I didn't feel like I needed to graduate from college, let's say, and get a degree in order to do all the things that I've done. I did go to college. I loved college. But because I was interested in so many different things, I would go for a semester, and then I'd take off for a semester, and I'd work overseas. It's just kind of what I was doing for a few years. And then every time I came back, I guess, I don't know, just being exposed to so many different things, I would change my major, so I was on the 20-year plan. I kind of laugh at that. So, but yeah, so, maybe that I never did anything the traditional route. I got married later. I was just, I never I was never like, okay, by, this age, I'm going to have, 2.5 children, you know what I mean? And live with and I don't know if is that a good thing or bad thing? I've always been kind of in the moment, in the present, and open to whatever comes. And, does that answer your question? I'm just not being traditional.
Yeah. And so, like, what are some of the, when you're looking to take on a new project or turn in a new direction, what are some of the like uncomfortable questions that you might ask yourself before you're getting started with something?
Before taking on a new project?
Yeah. Or taking a pivot in your life.
Okay. Well, there's the normal, how am I going to do this? And there's the normal, can I do this? It's not that I don't feel that, but then I go, okay, let's figure this out and see if I can do this. And so I'm a big researcher. I'm a big, I'll Google's your friend, like just a lot of information on how things can be found on that online. And then also I have a wide variety of friends, so I have no problems like calling and asking, questions, and you'd be surprised. People love to help if they can, and yeah. That's what I do.
Sounds like you have a pirate crew that you've built up.
I have a pirate crew. I think we all do if we're open to it. I mean, there are days where, I'm sure people feel like alone or whatever, but if they sit and think about it, it's like, no, that person knows a little, and who knows, maybe that person knows somebody, or, you got your pirate crew, like there's the at the library, you know what I mean? Like you're never alone without resources. I feel like, but yeah, I'm blessed. I do feel like I have some good people around me that, good friends and good pirate crews. I like that. That's a good term.
Well, and I like that because basically what you were saying, one of the hardest questions is just asking for help when you need it. Right. We often just isolate ourselves and think that we have to do things alone rather than, two heads like these two are often better than one, right? Like we can put our minds together and come up with solutions to the problems that alone we can't necessarily, or, it's harder when you're alone. So I like the fact that just asking for help is one of those hard questions.
Community is huge. And actually you just reminded me, when I was writing the book, what actually helped me stay on track was a community of women that we had created a writers group just before the pandemic. It was the beginning of the year, end of last year, or the beginning or end of 2019. Let's see, when I had taken a memoir class in November, December. And so anyways, right after that class, and, and a class ends and you're kind of like, oh, I'm going to miss you guys. We were all going through that. And then one of the ladies, she had approached me and she said, hey, do you want to do a writer's group? I really like your writing. I'm like, oh my God, I love your writing. Yes, absolutely. And so a few of us just formed this group. And of course it was before, no one knew what was going to happen, so I was the only one that didn't live in Los Angeles. So I'm driving up there, every other week. And then, March happens and we connected and we said, well, should we just do this via Zoom? And I was all for it. So we wound up doing it for the whole time, about a year. We met weekly. We met every Saturday. And I felt like that just knowing that I had a group of women who were waiting to see something from me, and vice versa. We were all, we all submitted something, and we just gave each other feedback, and it was like a nice support. And you just to get feedback from others is, to me, valuable. So yeah, that helped me kind of just feel accountable, and it, instead of, because it's so easy, oh yeah, I have this project, I'm going to do this, and then shiny object. So it was really nice for me to not have the distractions. That's the silver lining of, the pandemic for me. It just lockdown, being home, and then having my writers group, really. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, those are some bold actions, definitely, that you've taken. But can you tell us about some other bold actions that you may have taken in order to get you where you are today?
Yeah. So I have a funny story. I used to be, I still am in some way, like kind of, I have my ridiculous fear. So I have like this fear of being out in the middle of nowhere. And I can trace it back to, I feel like I gave you these long answers.
Go for it. We have time.
So when I was in Los Angeles, you know, and you know, working as an actor and stuff, you know, you have these late night classes. I had these late night acting classes. And so I wound up getting drinking like Red Bull just to keep me up. And then like I would have another one. And so I just had a lot of caffeine during a course period of my life. And I wound up getting developing these like my heart would start racing. And you know, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with my heart? And I realized it was just like diet related. I was just having way too much caffeine. But it happened on a plane coming back from Europe to go back to the States. And I having like this heart racing and then knowing I was above water, you know, like we couldn't land if something happened, made it even worse. So then I was giving myself an anxiety attack because that was almost like that on top of, so anyway, so that I had always associated with kind of like being, you know, like long drives through a desert or, you know, like what if something happens kind of thing. So the reason I mention is part of the things that like I feel like I try to attack the things that scare me. And so that one of the volunteer missions where I agreed to go into the Amazon, it was just me and 3 other people, and we were deep in there. And I was like, I was so proud of myself that I did it, because I knew that it like years prior, I probably would never have done it because I would have been too scared, and I would have missed out on this, you know, most incredible experience. But I did it. You know, whatever you have to do to trick your mind, or you know, like tell yourself it's, you know, it's, I knew that I was the one that was causing my fears. You know what I mean? I knew that I was healthy and, you know, we were safe and all this stuff. So I knew that if it was me that was like getting in my head, I knew that I was the only one that could get out of my head. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I knew it was an inside job. So yeah. So I was proud that I was able to get over that. I used to have a fear of heights, so I went skydiving, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are some bold actions to face those fears for sure. What actually led you into the Amazon jungle? What were you doing?
So I got involved with Rotary, the Rotary group. So it's kind of, yeah. So, and then I wound up, like I said, you know, working with, this mobile medical clinics, and, we would go to, Mexico often. There would be clinics in California as well. But they were, primarily, dental clinics. So I am not a dentist. I don't, you know, but there's a lot that you could, you know, so there's still things that, you know, non-dentists could do. And so, and primarily a lot of the things that I was doing was also documenting. But, you know, you hand out toothbrushes or whatever, there's always something that, you know, and then I wound up, you know, gosh, part of the things that one of the things that we did in the Amazon was, we would teach, you know, proper dental hygiene, and, you know, in other parts of Peru, we would hand out, my gosh, eye reading glasses. We did this in India too. And yeah, I mean, just, it's interesting to, it's a really cool feeling to be able to like give something that's so really inexpensive at the end of the day, to someone that it can change their life. You know, I mean, like, I just think it's pretty cool. So, but yeah, so I'd say those things.
What was it that drew you to like want to be of service? You know?
Well, I'm pretty grateful for the life that I have. And I feel like just giving back is all you can do. Also, like when you're down too, I think when you help others, it makes you feel better as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, but it was primarily after when I sold the company, and it's really when I got deep into it. So yeah. Yeah. And then, once you see like the things that the actions that you take and how that changes people around you, it's addicting. And it's becomes this thing that's larger than yourself. So, coming from an acting back, a lot of it's in that industry, it's like all about you, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just nice to get out of yourself and like focus on others. So yeah, I was just drawn.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of adventures along the way. Yeah. So I want to hear more about your book as well. And I read a little what I could on Amazon, and I was crying a little bit as I was reading it. So I'm looking forward to having the copy so I can read it all. But what do you tell us some about your book and what led you to writing it? Yeah.
Well, so what led me to writing it was, I mean, I would easily just say my mother, but okay. When my mother passed, we all kind of realized she didn't really leave an after death plan. I mean, we didn't know. I mean, she didn't say I wanted to be cremated, or I want to be buried here. So what happened was I actually drew from some of the things that she had said in passing, where she said, "When I die, I want my ashes spread across Bergdorf Goodman." And I don't know if you're familiar with New York City. Bergdorf is a very high-end department store in New York. And my mother was very much like a Moira from Schitt's Creek, like just kind of over the top, just like, so part of it was like, is she kidding? I don't know. But I mean, when I sat with it, it basically just inspired me to take her back to all of her favorite places. And that was really the perfect tribute to her. And so that was actually the first thing that I started writing about. I had this journey with her and her ashes and, revisiting all the places that she had ever loved or had ever told me about, as a child. And it was really cool for me because it was like, almost seeing it through her eyes, these places, taking her back. And it was like this kind of full circle feeling for me. So I wrote about that experience, and that was the initial, like, okay, I have to get this out. And then I started, talking to people, talking to her best friend, talking to family members, and just finding out more about her. I mean, of course, I knew a lot to begin with, but there's always more that you don't know. And for example, like her best friend Marilyn, I learned so much about their youth. They used to are you familiar with the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
I love that show.
I love that show. Yeah. So I had that in my head when I was writing chapter 3. She was they're very, like, they used to go to the Catskills, and they, Marilyn was a singer, and my mother, just like, the two of them went everywhere together, and they had all these crazy adventures there, dancing with Sammy Davis Jr. or like hanging out with all the, all the acts, really. I mean, everybody was anyone kind of like started there. So that was really fun to write about. But also I had known, so the part of the subtitles, Tales of the Original Party Crasher. So my mom in her youth was very good friends with Ron Galella, who was the original paparazzi. He's the guy that he shot everyone. He shot that famous photograph of Jackie O, that black and white, when her hair is like kind of in her face walking across the street. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but so he shot her, he shot Brando. I mean, he was Andy Warhol's favorite photographer. So when he was just starting out, the two of them were very good friends, and he would find out about these movie premieres in New York City. And, he would tell my mother about them, and they would go together, and and they would, in all intents purposes, they would crash these parties. And she'd hide his camera under the table, and kind of they would like help each other get in. And I jokingly say they were like a Bonnie and Clyde team of party crashing. Well, the only shooting was by a photographer and his camera, but they were a good team. And just there were so many stories for me to like share. So my mother was written up in the New York Times, not the New York Times, I'm sorry, the New York Post. They gave her a nickname, Harlow, because they had basically said, we have a new party crasher on the scene or whatever. And, they said all this stuff about her, and then they gave a nickname. They said, we call her Harlow, after Jean Harlow, because she loved to, she was a blonde her whole life, but not she dyed her hair. So she loved the old movies and the old movie stars, Marilyn Monroe and Jean Harlow and all that. So anyway, so she kind of loved to like, look like that. And so they gave her the nickname Harlow. And originally I was going to name the book Harlow. But when I was finished with the book, I was talking with one of my friends who had written into the book, one of my old roommates. And we were talking about how, my mom was so unapologetically herself, and, reminiscing about her and stuff. And my friend was like, oh my God, Caroline, that's what you have to call it. You have to call it unapologetic. So she was actually the reason that the book is called Unapologetic. She gave me that suggestion. The more I sat with that title, it felt right. It resonated with me. So, yeah.
There's something in that, like being unapologetic too, that offers freedom to all of those around you. And it sounds like with her being unapologetic, it offered you a freedom in your life as you were growing up too. So you got such a great experience from her being unapologetically herself.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And she was definitely she was her own person, even living on an island. Like I said, I'm from Hawaii. She's from New York City. And for her to have lived on an island for 36 years, and she's not, and she's a city girl. It's pretty funny too, but she always she never really changed much. She was wearing sequins to the beach, and it's fabulously herself. Pretty funny. Yeah. And my parents were complete opposites too. So my father was very much supportive of her. Like neither of them tried to change the other, which was also kind of a lesson for me too, and just acceptance, and everyone's different in this world, and there's beauty in that. Like my parents were like completely different, different backgrounds. My mom came from a big city. My dad came from like a small town in the Midwest, different religions, different, my mom was a professional dancer. My dad, his family was more like that of Footloose, growing up. So it's just complete opposites, but they just worked. He was her grounding force, and she kept life exciting. So it's nice kind of, I think, growing up in that environment. I don't know, just with that balance.
So where can our listeners go to find out more about you?
Well, I have a website. It's carolinenadinehelsing.com, and that links all of my socials. So I'm on the social platforms, Instagram, Facebook. It's all Caroline Nadine Helsing author. Yeah. So
yeah, you can on Amazon go and read at least part of the first chapter of the book. So
yeah, Kindle has a previewer, so you can read a couple chapters, and then the hope is you get hooked and then get
I'm hooked. So yeah, go to Kindle, or even just on the Amazon page too. That's where I was able to read, where it had your intro and the first chapter, and I'm hooked. So it works.
Thank you.
How would you recommend our listeners start their own pirate journeys?
Well, I would say don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid to just try things. To me, that keeps life exciting. And I mean, I've always been someone that is kind of either had my own business or kind of work or done freelance, the idea of doing a 9-to-5 for me is like claustrophobic. But yeah, so whether you have, if you're able to do that, great. Just try things. Explore things. If you're not sure, what your passion is, that's a good way to figure it out. I feel like following your bliss is the best way to do it. Doing what makes you happy. So, just trial and error.
Take action.
Take action. Exactly. If you have an opportunity, try and train your mind not to immediately go to, no, I don't think I can do that. Train it to, okay, yeah, never done it before, but let me figure it out. It's a muscle. It's just, it's like it might be awkward at first, but fake it till you make it, and then you wind up naturally thinking in this way. And your life's just way more interesting and exciting, I think. So say yes. Just say yes. Say yes to things.
That's how we ended up with this podcast.
It is.
How did you guys start? So would you just had an idea, right?
I said, hey, Kristen, want to do a podcast?
Right.
And she said,
yes.
And you hadn't ever done one before, right? And she had to figure it out. But look what you guys are doing now. It's so cool. And you get to meet all these different people, and you're learning things, and you're giving back to the world, and that's awesome. Because you could have easily been like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool to start a podcast, but I don't know how to do it, so oh well. You know what I mean? It's common. So good for you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we did exactly what you talked about. We reached out to our friends who had podcasts, hey, help. Tell us what you did. We reached out to our crew, and they helped us and they guided us, and it was just all about taking action, little steps at a time, and we were okay with sucking. Hey, this might suck at first, and as we get the reps in, we'll get better.
Everyone's been there, and it's like, you look at successful people, there's not one person that hasn't failed. They just don't stay in that failure. It's like, maybe you have many failures along the way, but if you want something bad enough,
there's just temporary defeats, not complete failure.
It teaches you.
Exactly.
One of the podcast that just came out this week with our guest. Her name's Akara. She said, one of my favorite quotes I've taken from her is make mistakes freely. And I was like, I love that. I absolutely adore that.
Yeah. As a recovering perfectionist, you know, you're so afraid to make a mistake or being anything less than perfect. Right. So to take that on and be like, no, it's okay. It's okay if I suck and if I make mistakes and I learn, and then you grow from it. So I love that.
It's true. I mean, and look where you guys are now, right? So that's awesome. I mean, and that's kind of what I, you know, talking to people, getting information from others. Like I did that in the process of deciding whether or not to self-publish or go the traditional route. Did you self-publish as well? Yeah. So I don't know if you did the same thing, but like I had friends that did both. And so I talked to both and weighed everything. And I was like, you know, I don't want to wait 2 years before my book's ready, you know, and out and available. I also don't want to relinquish any rights. You know, there's a lot of reasons like that. And I don't know, first time publisher, whatever it is. So, you know, there was really no right or wrong answer. It's just what feels right to you. So yeah,
yeah,
we did that.
Yeah. When I started on the path, I had thrown out an idea to a friend and I somewhat was trying to hand off the book to them. I was like, hey, you have this great idea that you created over here. Want to write a book on it? And he's like, you write a book and then like, show me what you made. And so anyway, along the way, I had some support and there was one person I was put in touch with that she threw at me all this information early in the game where I'm like, all I know is I've written a draft. Don't know where this is going. And we got on the phone and she's like, so you can publish it, like, or no, she was even more direct. She's like, are you going to publish it or are you going to self-publish? Like, are you looking to go to a publisher or a self-publish? I'm like, I don't know. I wrote a draft. And anyway, she started going through like, if you self-publish, like you get to maintain all the rights. It's going to be more out of pocket initially. However, like these are all the benefits and you'll get more money coming back in versus if you go to a publisher, you need an agent, you need all of these things. And there's going to be costs too.
Get the publisher. It's a lot.
Yeah. But and what she said did end up sticking with me. Like part of me needed to wait because I needed an illustrator. I could have illustrated, but I wouldn't have illustrated my heart into it. And so I needed the right illustrator who did put her heart into it and did amazing. And so I needed some time to wait and I got time to think about it. But when it came to it and I was like, all right, got the illustrator, I'm going to go through Amazon and do it this way because this feels the most right. So,
and I mean, funny, I feel like we're plugging like KDP Amazon. Customer service, pretty great. Like I thought I liked it for the customer service because, you know, even though we're doing everything ourselves, but like, you know, you have questions along the way, you know, like whatever it is with uploading or formatting or whatever. And so it's so easy just to kind of like reach out to them and pick up I used it a lot. Did you?
I haven't actually had yet, but they'd have the community too. So that's been helpful.
There's videos and also,
So to everybody listening too, like if you are wanting to write a book, start like, and there are plenty of ways to make it happen. So.
Well, and what I love about that is like your first action wasn't deciding to publish or self-publish, right? Like sometimes we get caught up in these big decisions or like we get overwhelmed with the giant details versus like you wrote a draft, right? Like get something on paper, or even if it's not writing a book, like what is that first small step that you can take that's going to get you moving on that journey rather than looking at the big scary hole. And then we just get paralyzed with fear, right? Or overwhelmed, right?
And paralysis. Like the more you think about it, you're just like, cause I've been there too, but then when you can recognize that you're there, then you're like, okay, no, what do I need to do? So,
yeah.
I don't know if you can hear my dog is just going crazy right now. She's like, hey, can you hold on? There's, can you see her?
Oh,
okay.
Hey, normally it's my dogs, but they're, normally you can hear them snoring under my desk.
I might just go down with her and so she's like, right. Yeah. It's like right around a certain time when she's like, okay, come play with me now.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a very dog friendly podcast. So.
She always likes the photobomb and
oh my goodness. So now if you're listening to this, you have to go and watch it on YouTube to see the puppy.
Oh God, no. Like the one time I'm wearing my glasses too. I swear, I was telling them, I'm trying to find like no backlight. Y'all are seeing my whole place here. Okay. This is what happens. I get on the ground to like hang out with her and then she goes away. I'm just gonna go back there. Anyway, yeah. So
amazing.
Right here. Well, this is my mom. We do this little here. Do you see that? I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, lovely.
Pretty.
She's
fun. Anyway, okay. So, okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like also too, just like the topic of this book, you know, I would say anyone can kind of do it, you know, just ask questions of your family. You know, whatever it is, like for me, I love to document stuff. I'm a total, like sentimentalist. So, it's only natural for me to have like asked questions and then like written it down and saved things. And, you know, I'm so grateful that I saved all that I did because it was, those things were you know, those things inspired me, inspired new stories to tell and things like that. But I feel like, you know, anyone can talk to their parents or talk to, you know, if they're still alive or, you know, friends or loved ones, whatever, you know, and like ask questions. And I mean, there's stories out there. There's stories that want to be shared and told. And I think that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
So we have one more very important question for you. Do you know any pirate jokes?
Actually, it's funny. I just heard one.
Oh.
Couple days ago.
Excellent. Well timed.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a dad joke. So
even better.
It's what is a pirate's favorite letter?
What?
You gonna guess?
Oh,
R.
Everyone thinks it's R. Like that's what I thought. No, it's C because they love C. I didn't say it was good, but
none of them are. It's okay.
No.
Well done. At least you get credit for showing up with a pirate joke.
Right.
For
Do you
sure.
guys have a pirate joke? You probably heard so many. What's one of your favorites?
So we have this one that we prepare with a joke, and this one's been getting passed from week to week because people have been bringing their own jokes. Okay. So are you ready? Is it
a long one?
Nope.
Okay,
it's just ridiculous. What's a pirate's favorite veggie?
Least favorite veggie.
Sorry. What's a pirate? I don't know what their favorite one is. What's their least favorite veggie?
Veggie. I don't know. What?
Leeks.
Oh.
I feel like we've been sitting on that one for like a month. It had to be told today.
It did.
You can add it to my arsenal too. So
well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. It's been lovely getting to know you and getting to know a little bit about your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Fun. It's fun to talk with you ladies.
It's rock and roll, guys. There are no rules. This one goes to 11.